It's safe to say that hardware for Apple this year has been very, very underwhelming. Like 2018 budget iPad, okay. A red iPhone 8, and that about sums it up, unless you want to count that 30-watt USB-C brick. Oh yeah, at WWDC we got one piece of new hardware. Apple upgraded the 29-watt USB-C charge brick to a 30-watt USB-C charge brick. Okay, it's something, but this is what makes me think Apple will have two more keynotes later this year. It is simply because they cannot smush all of the hardware that's rumored to come out into one single keynote. Especially if it's the Apple, we all know how they like to stretch things out, add a lot of fluff to their keynotes and their events. Keynotes have always been this way, and if they're going to continue being this way, I don't think Apple can announce new iPads, updated iMacs, updated MacBooks, and all the new iPhones and a new Apple Watch and potentially a Beats branded HomePod all in a single keynote. However, that would be very, very cool. In fact, I would love it if that happened. If Apple just put all the fluff aside and during the September keynote literally just says, we don't have time for any crap, we're gonna get right to the point. It announces all of that hardware at one event. They usually don't do things like that. So that's why I'm thinking, like scheduled, we're going to get an event this September that is primarily focused, of course, on the new iPhones, and there's still rumored to be a lot, alongside the new generation of Apple Watch. And there's even been some more evidence and leaks to confirm that our theories about the next-gen iPhone are indeed true. Like the website BGR found the leaked screen resolution of the iPhone 10 Plus, which is rumored to be 1242 by 2688, which makes it only 3 pixel per inch smaller than an iPhone 10, which means it's going to be the largest display you've ever seen on an iPhone, while still retaining a very, very high pixel density with a lot of detail in it. That is, if the iPhone ends up being 6.5 inches. We even have people on Twitter offering prototypes for a 6.1 inch iPhone, which they're asking $100,000 for, but no one's gonna buy that. No one, I think, is interested because we can all imagine what a 6.1 inch version of this would look like. It's not terribly exciting, but it is at least confirming more and more that there are 3 different size options for this year's iPhone 10, one being 5.8, one being 6.1 inches, except a lot cheaper and having less premium materials built into it, and not as good a display because it's an LCD. And then, of course, the extremely premium iPhone 10 Plus with the very high pixel density, very large display, and all the best features. Even one analyst predicting that this year we will get an iPhone 10 Plus with 3 cameras on the back, not 2. I'm not sure I believe that. I think they're going to save that for 2019, given there's a lot more analysts reporting that both the iPhone 10 and 10 Plus this September will both be sporting a dual camera and probably little to no differences in camera quality between the two. The only advantages I think the 10 Plus could possibly offer you is a better battery life, maybe some software exclusives since the screen is so large, and perhaps an extra gig of RAM or something like that. I don't think you're going to be getting any camera improvements this year if you buy the iPhone 10 Plus, but could be wrong, and we'll find out. At that same keynote this September, we'll also see a redesigned Apple Watch Series 4, hopefully one that actually looks different than every other Apple Watch that we've previously seen, given that functionally they've kind of mastered the Apple Watch. They've kind of given it every feature that functionally it can need. Now all they can really do is improve things, improve battery life, improve the display, remove bezels, and more recent reports, according to Fast Company, are saying that the redesign with the Series 4 is going to be that the buttons on the side of your Apple Watch are no longer going to physically click, and instead are just going to be pressure sensitive, kind of like the home button on the iPhone 7 and 8, where they use the Taptic engine to give the illusion of a click and not actually click. Some people don't really like this feature, some people do, but it's mostly going to help with Apple Watches that get a lot of debris stuck underneath the buttons, or, you know, you drop it in the sand, or when you're swimming, a bunch of gunk can get underneath those buttons. So sealing up the Apple Watch body more and more and more so that basically nothing can interfere with those buttons and nothing can prevent them from being clicked is probably better for long term. So I'm very curious to see if they're going to add any other features with the Series 4 as well, or if it's just going to be button enhancements, in which case sales likely not going to be too good. And it also makes me wonder, like, if that's true, then how do you turn on the Apple Watch the day you get it? You know, on the iPhone 7, when you got it, the home button didn't move, but you had the power button to resort to when you wanted to power the device on. With the Apple Watch, if both buttons are solid state, can it really turn on, or are they just going to make the digital crown solid state? I'm not sure. But there's more and more evidence to support that, as per usual. Lots of iPhones coming out in September, with a minimum of 3, potentially 4, if the iPhone SE rumors are true, alongside the new Apple Watch. And at that keynote, I think we'll probably get one other thing, like maybe that Beats branded HomePod we thought we were going to get in the last keynote and didn't. Maybe they'll announce that around this time frame. But knowing Apple, they probably could fill a keynote with just new iPhones and new Apple Watches, and then that brings us to the next keynote. So a lot of you may be surprised to find out that a lot of the time WWDC actually doesn't have hardware. This is not uncommon. But what we do notice about the keynotes that don't have hardware is that they're usually followed not by 1 but 2 keynotes later in the year. Of course, always one in September, but then one near the late October/early early November timeframe, and that's when I think we're going to get the redesigned iPads. If you look at the history of when iPad Pros get refreshed, they're kind of on a odd refresh cycle. First big iPad Pro came out in November, then the smaller iPad Pro came out in March, then the 2017 iPad Pros came out in June, so they're kind of on an 18-month refresh cycle, which is why it would make sense that the Face ID versions that don't have a home button, those will be coming out at that keynote that takes place in October/November time period. And iOS 12 basically solidified everyone's theories about the iPad, given now with iOS 12 you can swipe up to go home, control center's at the top right, which if you think about it, it's kind of crazy now that on iPads there are 3 different ways to go to the home screen. There's the gestures to use all 5 fingers to close, there's swiping up, and then of course there's also just the home button. Double click the home button or swipe up and hold. This is way too complicated for iPads to always be this way. It is very apparent to me that iOS 12 is getting iPads ready and getting their customers ready for an iPad in which there is no home button. For an iPad in which there is no home button, where we swipe up to go home, swipe up and hold to activate multitasking, and we even have people online that are showing that the Face ID setup code, the menus in which you register Face ID and everything, is already optimized and put on the iPad. They even screen recorded it and uploaded it. So pretty much all our theories about this next gen iPad that has no home button, equips Face ID, it's like 99% for sure happening. The question is just when. Will they unveil it in September? That would be kind of weird, or will they wait a couple more months? Along that other keynote in which they introduced the new iPads, I think we'll finally get the updates for the iMac and the MacBooks we didn't get before. I'm hoping at this keynote that they actually address all of the keyboard problems that MacBook users have been having, because Apple designed this really thin keyboard, but any type of debris gets under there, the keys stop working or they start sticking. It's caused a huge headache to a bunch of people, so I'm hoping at least that when we get the updated hexa-core CPUs in the new MacBooks or the new GPUs, maybe they introduce a new type of keyboard that has patented ways of getting rid of debris, or they just turn them into old-fashioned keyboards like we have on Magic keyboards for like our iMacs and stuff, just so they're a tad more reliable. And since this is near the end of the year of 2018 when this keynote will be happening, I think there's a really good chance that we could get a sneak peek, not an unveiling, but a sneak peek of what the 2019 modular Mac Pro is going to look like. Usually when there's a new product like that, they tease it and they advertise it way before it actually comes out, and since Apple said that the modular Mac Pro will be ready in 2019, this is the last keynote of 2018, so I think it would be a perfect time to start teasing that image and give us a really cool cinematic unveiling of that 2019 Mac Pro, but of course it won't be able to buy probably until WWDC of 19. Then you'll have a developers conference with hardware with a new machine that is primarily built for developers, so I think that would be perfect timing. Hardware's been very boring so far, so I'm really hoping that in the September-October timeframe we're gonna get a lot of new hardware from Apple, but I'm also curious what you guys think of the keynotes later this year. Are we gonna get 2 or are we gonna get 1? Let me know in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.